Spanning 6 decades, the Capital Region Education Council's commitment to educational excellence has given rise to an increasing variety of student and family services and a growing number of award-winning magnet schools. Key to this exponential growth has been CREC's responsiveness to the needs and support from its member districts and partners. These relationships form the basis of CREC's success today and can be traced back to its early beginnings as an organization. In 1966, a plan was devised for Greater Hartford school districts to work together to solve common problems. The initial vehicle for pulling them together was a project grant called the Metropolitan Effort Toward Regional Opportunity, or METRO.
METRO was really the acronym for a grant requested by the Superintendent's Association, primarily from the federal government. And its purpose was to plan to get more interaction between school districts, particularly in working with the suburban school districts in Hartford. Boards of education were trying to form this kind of a council. They had no staff, they had no money. So there became a marriage of this METRO planning grant to include startup of the Capital Region Education Council. And I think one of the things that CREC was able to do is to show that the school districts working together could make positive change and have an impact on what's going on with the quality of education.
When I came from the department, of course, I had been working with superintendents all over the state. I had had a very positive and good relationship with them, and that led them to be interested in working with CREC in new initiatives. We worked in partnership, and that was the key thing. I think my charge was to help districts see that we were partners with them, that for each of us, we got better by doing things together.
John Allison and Marcia Yulo did a spectacular job in developing this agency. When you think about how hard it is to develop a new idea in public education, especially an organization, and stabilize that organization. And we have to remember that John built it from scratch to about a $35 million organization when I arrived, and both he and Marcia did superb work. They had to bring their school districts on board. They brought CREC a long way. So standing on the shoulders of John Allison and Marcia Yulo and individuals like that has made the organization perform at a very high level every day, and I marvel at that.
In 1966, a group of parents joined together with the common goal of providing their hearing-impaired children with equal access to spoken language and quality education in public schools. Shortly after, the Capital Region Education Council adopted the program now known as SoundBridge as its first special education service provided to school districts.
There weren't that many kids. There were 5 to start. It's a very low incidence, high cost program, tailor-made for cooperation among school districts. It's something they cannot do on their own, but can do if they work together. One of the major CREC abilities is to get people to work together, to share their resources.
SoundBridge was in the Stillman School when I first came to CREC, and Stillman was a Wethersfield public school. A school from the turn of the century, so it had its pluses and minuses.
We had about maybe 100, 150 students at that point. I taught at Hanmer Elementary School, and my first classroom was in a shower locker room. We had our academy program, and we had a very small birth to 3 program. We only had 2 audiologists, so we did not have the wealth of audiological services that we have now.
When I came to CREC, Jenny Hume was the director. She was the kind of leader who had the passion for what she did and knew how to move her organization forward. I was part of the development of SoundBridge, the new facility. Jennifer took a great lead in that, and of course that facility allowed SoundBridge to do many more things, such as expand their preschool operations, be a professional development center, and of course is very heavily involved in the Birth to 3 program.
We try to be very dynamic, change to meet the demands, and we serve more students within their home districts. Over 93% of students are served in district, and we serve over 600 students now.
You know, Soundbridge does God's work. You know, as I've said on numerous occasions, I can only imagine, you know, the conversation that goes on between parents when they find out that their child has a hearing impairment and all of the concerns that they have about the child as they're growing up. Then their child goes to Soundbridge and finds a way to communicate in such a way that all of the doors will be open for them. There's no greater gift, you know, that you can give to a child.
It's fun now to start seeing adults who are coming back that we had as children, and to see them doing well and being successful in whatever they chose to do. It's exciting.
The Capital Region Education Council saw tremendous growth during the 1980s. In 1985, CREC opened the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts, its first magnet school. This marked an important moment, laying the groundwork for CREC's expansion into the development of magnet schools throughout the Greater Hartford area.
It was a marvelous thing to open. There was a committee of two, the superintendent of schools in South Windsor and the chairman of the Hartford board, and they came back to me. We found a perfect place for this academy to be built. It's the old DeSopo Funeral Home across the street from Buckley. So there were a lot of resources that you could use. But it was hard for people to envision that a funeral parlor was going to be the start of a Greater Hartford Academy of Performing Arts.
In the early years, it was a struggle to start these schools. I mean, funding was low. We, I think, very wisely brought together superintendents from districts to be part of the planning teams to design these schools. So they were a partnership of CREC with surrounding districts to provide a means to desegregate our very segregated school system. Magnet schools were seen as the cutting-edge way of doing this on a voluntary basis.
Back in '85, it was very small. That was the thing. We had I think there might have been 20 kids in the music department. But the idea was the same. We didn't have many students, but the ideals that we had, I think, were very similar. We wanted them to master their art form. At first, it was a kind of a well-kept secret that I don't think a lot of towns heard about. And then as they heard about it, we started getting more students from other suburbs.
We moved, of course, during my tenure to the Learning Corridor and became sort of the anchor tenant there. We gained a lot in terms of the facility and opportunities for diversifying the curriculum, but we lost a little bit of the intimacy that the school had in that funeral parlor. And that's always, you know, the give and take.
I've watched the Academy go through some major change. My vision for it, when I first started and it was small, was to bring them to the point where our students were competitive for the major college programs.
And then Herb Shepard was the principal at the time. He was mandated with the task of creating a full-day program.
I feel as if the Arts Academy has gone from a program to an institution. We're now a school. We're really a school, and we have hundreds of students, and our kids are doing amazing things. Our arms have gotten so much bigger.
The Arts Academy is one of the flagships of the CREC magnet schools. The kids there are absolutely marvelous. I met with the seniors the other day, and I asked them about what are they taking away from this school. And they talked about fortitude, they talked about strength of character, they talked about self-discipline. Those were all of the important attributes that we were looking for our students to gain at that school and go forward, you know, in life with.
CREC and its wisdom has done everything it can to create a K-12 arts community. If we can tie the arts in for those kids that have that passion and have them make a connection when they're younger, it only bodes well for them when they're in high school. As a middle school principal, I dedicated my life to preparing kids for high school. I look forward to the opportunity of having my colleagues prepare them for our experience.
In the late 1990s, the Capital Region Education Council transitioned Project Concern into its growing list of regional services. The Capital Region Choice Program aimed to work with urban and suburban districts, providing students with diverse racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds equal opportunities to receive quality education and to help close the achievement gap.
There were many, many meetings with parents to discuss this transition from Project Concern to Project Choice.
There are a lot of families that became more weary of sending their children into a unknown without the supports.
So when we took over Project Choice, I hired Mary Carroll, who was the director of Project Concern. It helped us address some of this trepidation that parents felt about coming over to CREC. I was very moved by the Hartford parents and their courage in sending their children to suburban schools, to an area totally unknown to them.
CREC has been a real champion for Hartford students attending suburban schools. The whole CREC organization, particularly the Choice Division, helps us make the successful transition for students into our suburban districts.
A lot of children have gone through the Open Choice program and flourished in suburban school districts and went on to great colleges, and they're in the process of making a generational jump with regard to establishing families. And in 2 generations or 3 generations from now, Open Choice will have been a critical factor in the history of that family, for where that family finds themselves: quality of education, quality of life, quality of individuals.
The one thing that is predominant in the culture of CREC is that all students can achieve. They live by that motto. And not only the educational aspect of providing education, but also the socialization aspect. I always tell CREC folks that they make the vision come alive. If there's not a mechanism in place to make a dream the reality, you're going nowhere. To me, CREC is that mechanism. It has made a dream the reality.
Implementing the vision of helping all students to achieve at high levels has and always will be at the core of CREC's work. Since its earliest days, CREC has relied on the skills of its most valuable asset, its employees, to fulfill that vision.
I am really fortunate at this point in my career to work with people like this. Every day, every week at CREC, someone inspires me. I'm just swept off my feet by something that happens in one of our programs.
I've been impressed throughout my years of association with CREC, at how they can scan the environment and then they can figure out what we need. And the fact is that they can turn on a dime. And they stand ready with the solutions for us, the talent, the resources, and it's just been really a great partnership.
The range of talent and expertise the organization has is kind of this very wide-ranging think tank.
It's just nice to see all the different things that we've been able to accomplish with our students, how far we've been able to bring them along as a result of our sticking closely to our mission.
CREC is still a great place to work. I think the fact of coming to work, we're out to help the kids. All the staff, no matter what we do, we're all helping each other. We're all helping each other contribute to making the child's education here an event that they can treasure.
It's easy to educate a child who is a square peg for a square hole. It's a different thing when you're talking about a round peg. And we have round peg children. I believe CREC does more than care for these children. I think they really care that these children get educated.